You're tuned to Planet Vero Radio. I am Cindy Schwartz. We are broadcast on 101.7 FM Real Radio WCZR, and we're podcast on Spreaker. Jeannie Roller is with me, my co-host in Indiana, and we've got a guest today, Jeff. He's in Virginia. Jeff is going to talk about his heart surgery, and he wants to make a specific point, which we talk about so many times, Jeannie, about is deception the right word? We can't figure out what the right word is because it is deceiving that patients do not get quite a bit of the information that we think that we needed to make these so-called informed decisions and also to uphold what we think we have, our patient rights, and then we find out in the end that it doesn't seem that we did have those. So Jeff wants to tell his story, and I really appreciate him coming forward because it's just, another story of the thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that have this this type of story to say, that how this medical care has just let them down. So, Jeannie, what do you think? You put me in touch with Jeff, and you've talked with him, and, what do you think about this? Another person. Here's another person.
Yeah, another person. And, he, not only that, was he deceived, but because he spoke up at one point, he was given medical retribution, which a nurse felt she was justified in harming him. Mm-hmm. And that happens to many people when they speak up.
Sadly, I agree with you because I've seen it in my own case and I've seen it in other cases. And I actually have talked with nurses that have told me that they've seen it happen, maybe not by them, but by other people, coworkers and doctors and whatever. I mean, it's not a thing that doesn't happen. So, Jeff, you're with us on the phone from Virginia. Jeff, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your story. I appreciate that you're here, and we'll try to answer some questions and try to alleviate your mind. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with these podcasts and these talk radio shows and get the information out there that this stuff is happening to us.
Okay, well, I appreciate you all, and I ended up going in for an aortic valve replacement, which obviously scared me to death, but it had to be done, and in the process, I had to go through a huge amount. I had to go 1 hour with the surgeon's office, a 3-hour pre-surgical meeting that I spent an hour with a nurse, and I was instructed to go through a whole booklet with her that described every single inch of that surgery and what to expect. Mm-hmm. The one thing I wasn't told is what they was where the deception began, because, like I said, they told me, the nurse looked at me, pointed to my chest, and said, "Don't shave your chest, your own chest." And I said, "Okay," wasn't thinking about it, but now that you mentioned it, I realize you're going to have to do that. So the morning I got to the hospital, which was weeks later, I was in the main waiting room, signed in, and was waiting, and the pre-op nurse came and got me and my wife and took us back to the pre-op area. Well, at the moment I went in through the door, almost instantly they took my wife and stuck her into this little waiting room. And my wife spoke up first and said, "Well, wait a minute, I always go back with him to pre-op." And the nurse said, "Oh, it's okay. We'll bring you back in a little bit, but you need to go in here and just wait a little while." And I'm over there going, "She always goes back with me." Mm-hmm. So at that point, I'm not only scared because they're going to shut my heart down and cut me open. Now I've been stripped of my support individual, which is in your patient right. So, and I don't know what's going on. No one's told me anything. And I had been through 4 previous surgeries, and my wife was always with me. So I know something's up, but I don't know what. Mm-hmm. Then I got back to the pre-op cubicle. She told me to strip to nothing, put the gown on, get in the bed, which I did. She came in and started questioning me and asking me all these series of questions, which the only one I remember is the fact that she said, "Do you have any religious concerns or needs?" And I said, because I knew something was wrong. And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I'm a very modest person, and I'm very religious, and I also don't feel comfortable being exposed in front of women." Mm-hmm. And her response to me was, "When you come to the hospital, you need to leave your modesty at the door." Well, that was just blew me over. I'm like, I don't leave my modesty at any door. So, and then immediately she says, "Okay, now we're going to be shaving your chest and genital." And I completely froze. I'm like, "What?" And the second she said that, the curtain opens up, and there's this young girl standing there with barber clippers in one hand and what turned out to be a vacuum cleaning nozzle in the other hand. And she walks in the room, doesn't say a word to me. Good morning, how are you? I'm Susie, anything.
Mm-hmm.
She took my gown, pulled it off my chest, down to my waist, started shaving my chest, and the whole time I'm just completely lost. I'm frozen. I don't understand why this wasn't told to me, because every opportunity was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then
did you think at any point, Jeff, to leave, to just go ahead and leave?
But see, here's what I've learned since then. When you get thrown into a situation where you're actually feeling traumatized,
mm-hmm.
you have three responses: fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah. And
I'm a freezer.
Okay.
And that's what happened to me. I froze.
Yeah.
Then she takes my gown, puts it back over my chest, and flips the bottom half up, exposing me. Then I won't say her name. The pre-op nurse turns away from her computer, comes over, and is standing there staring at my genitals while the other girl just digs in and starts going. At that moment, I felt my arms go out, and everything went blank. And I found out since then that's dissociative amnesia.
Yeah.
The terror and trauma, I mean, to them, they're just doing their job. To me, I felt like I was being sexually assaulted. Because I'm like, my God, what are they doing to me? Why didn't they tell me
right.
this stuff? And so I clicked out and was gone. The next thing I remember was hearing a voice that was off in the distance. And I heard a voice saying, "Are you okay? What's wrong? What happened?" And then I heard it again, only louder. Well, at this point, I opened my eyes. My wife is now sitting next to me. And then she asked me again. And I was coming back to the real world. I'm like, what in the world just happened?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they drove me to. And they know, they're not stupid. They know that they can hit a person from one end of the spectrum to the other. They're not stupid. So if a guy gets emotionally destroyed in this, well, you know what? It's the cost of doing business. The ends justify the means. Well, not when you break a person like that.
Right. Well, yeah, and I want to interrupt you for a second, too, Jeff, because we only have like a minute and a half left, and I don't want to, lose the context of the story. At any point after this happened, and it's horrible, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, did anyone tell you could have had that surgery without that specifically being done to you?
No, I didn't. You mean afterwards? No. The reason they do that is because I guess they go in through your artery. They actually punctured into my neck.
Mm-hmm.
To the they have to take your blood in and out. I don't really know how that works.
Okay.
But they had to puncture my femoral artery for that surgery, and they had to put a sleeve or something into my femoral artery, which when you have a cardiac cath, they will shave you, usually just one side. They shaved me from my neck to my toes.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was asking if there was another place or another procedure that could have been done differently. Jeannie, what do you think? I mean, we've heard this so many times. I mean, it's happened to your husband. I mean, what is going on here?
Well, the thing about a cardiac cath, you do not have to have your genitals exposed, because it is your artery in your groin that they need access to. They don't need access to your genitals. So it's just that, they feel that they have the right to do this kind of stuff over and over and over again. And I do believe it is a power trip for them. I do believe they get something out of doing it.
Yeah, I really don't even know what to think anymore, Jeff. I apologize for, on behalf of just the horror of it, and to be able to, try to move forward with your life, which is what we're all trying to do with this, why we do this podcast. I appreciate you coming on here and telling your story. We're going to do another podcast with you, too, next week to tell a little bit more if you've gotten any, help. How do you get help when you come back from that, when you've specifically told people that you don't want this to happen? So anyway, Jeff, I appreciate it. Stick around. We'll do another podcast. And you've been listening to Pound It Vero Radio. Please stay tuned.